Morning, this is Brian. Today is a beautiful Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. I'm here in Cleveland National Forest in the Laguna Mountain Recreation Area in San Diego County. So I'm here in the beautiful Laguna Mountains on this beautiful, bright, late spring day, here to give you a Spotlight on Shrubs video. Today's Spotlight is on the Palmer Ceanothus, aka Palmer Lilac, and this is Ceanothus palmeri. It is a medium to quite large, actually sometimes very large, partially evergreen, semi-winter deciduous shrub in the Buckthorn family, the Rhamnaceae, and it is a locally common to abundant species in montane chaparral and understories of woodland and conifer forest. So we're at an elevation of probably about 5,850 feet above sea level, just a little below 6,000 feet. We are in primarily pine oak forest, and in this case, Pinus jeffreyi, the Jeffrey pine, and Quercus kelloggi, the black oak, or California black oak if you like. And also this plant is also found in chaparral as well. So Palmer Ceanothus, again, the leaves on it are typically classified as semi-evergreen. They can either be fully evergreen or partially deciduous and may shed some leaves in the fall and winter months. But I've never seen this plant completely leafless during the winter, and I've seen it during the winter a few times. So Palmer Ceanothus is also called Palmer Lilac. These Ceanothus plants are also called California lilacs. And don't let that name be too misleading, because it is not related to the true lilacs in the genus Syringa, S-Y-R-I-N-G-A. Syringa, those plants are winter deciduous shrubs in the olive family, the Oleaceae. Ceanothus, aka California lilac, is a member of the Buckthorn family, the Rhamnaceae. So they're related to the coffee berries and red berries and other buckthorns. The Palmer Ceanothus is a member of some somewhat morphologically similar and fairly closely related shrubs called the mountain lilac group, according to Fred M. Roberts and Robert Allen book, The Wildflowers of Orange County in the Santa Ana Mountains. So this plant is grouped with them, and they're grouped with southern deerbrush ceanothus, Ceanothus integramus variety macrothyrsus, Ceanothus leucodermis, and I believe a few others. I believe Ceanothus spinosus is another close relative of this, as far as I know. I'll go into a couple of plants this could definitely be confused with, because there is at least one or two shrubs that this shrub is very similar to and very difficult to distinguish from without really paying attention to the leaves, where it grows, and stuff like that. So again, we're a little below 6,000 feet. This plant's usually found mostly above 4,000 feet, up to above 6,000 feet. It's also very common nearby Cuyamaca Rancho State Park, where it is growing really densely along the slopes of Cuyamaca Peak and Middle Peak and a lot of other areas. And I'm going to get into why it's so densely packed right now with this species. So we're going to take a look at the leaves. Take a look at the leaves of Palmer Ceanothus. And usually they're somewhat ovate, as you see here. Usually a little broader lower on the lower half than it is towards the middle and upper half of the leaf, towards the tip. So it's usually a little bit broader lower down. Not always. Sometimes they're a little more ovate. Sometimes they're a little wider. Sometimes they're a little narrower. And the interesting thing about the leaves of this plant is the leaves, the form, and the flowers are very similar to a plant I've yet to spotlight. So I got to find out when I can get up to some areas where I can spotlight this one. This is very similar to another plant it might occasionally be found with, and that is southern deerbrush ceanothus, and that's Ceanothus integrimus, and ours is variety macrothyrsus here. Very similar. The leaves are almost identical. The flowers come in these huge panicles. As you can see, Palmer Ceanothus has these really long wands or panicles of small white flowers. The other species is the southern deerbrush, which also has these long panicles of white flowers and very similar leaves. So, with deerbrush ceanothus, usually the leaves are predominantly three-veined, a main vein in the middle, and then a main system of vein branching off to the right and branching off to the left. And Palmer Ceanothus can have those type of leaves as well, but they also have leaves that are pinnately veined. In other words, the main leaf vein in the middle of the leaf and then veins branching off to the side. I'm going to try to see if I can get a detailed look at that. So Palmer Ceanothus can have both, but predominantly leaves that are pinnately veined. So that's one way I can usually tell these apart. If you look here, I'm going to try to see if I can get a good detail of it. It might be hard to see the veins. But if you look carefully enough, you can kind of see the veins. There's a big main vein in the middle of the leaf, and then the side veins branch off pinnately. In other words, off to the side. You see the leaf veins kind of branch off to the side there. Now, some of these leaves do have some venation that branches off from the bottom as well, like the deerbrush. So that could be another cause for concern. Like this one here, it's going to be kind of hard to tell. Bear with me. I'm trying to get good lighting to show you. This one also has a couple of veins branching off from the bottom, like southern deerbrush. But southern deerbrush tends to be semi to, in some cases, fully winter deciduous. A lot of times they'll retain some leaves as well, but they're a lot more deciduous than Palmer Ceanothus. See, this Palmer Ceanothus is predominantly like more than half evergreen in my experience. So again, so you got these leaves that are really shiny, very shiny when they're young and just coming from the bud, and then they dull off to a medium green and have a slightly whitish underside as well. On the underside you can see the venation a little bit better. So I'm going to walk along this road where there are plenty of examples. There are some quite large specimens here in the lagunas of Palmer Ceanothus. But again, as you can see, Palmer Ceanothus, like a lot of the mountain lilacs or the mountain ceanothus, beautiful white panicles of flowers. Some other species like Ceanothus leucodermis, the fully evergreen chaparral whitethorn, their flowers can range from white to halogen blue and purple. So this can be quite a neat sight to see. Another plant this could be confused with, which is usually found at lower elevations, is the green bark ceanothus or green bark lilac, and that is Ceanothus spinosus. That's usually in foothill, lower mountain, and coastal chaparral. And like green bark ceanothus, Palmer Ceanothus has predominantly green twigs and even greenish bark. Chaparral whitethorn leucodermis tends to have a little bit of a whiter bark, but also has green twigs, and then the bark is a little bit lighter gray. So we're walking along this side here, and there's a lot of Palmer Ceanothus here blooming, some of which is past peak, and some of it is just peaking right now. So this is a great time to be out here checking it out. Here's a younger shrub. Absolutely spectacular sight as we're finishing off spring going into summer. Lots of little pollinating flies. So, I'll show you some larger ones here. We'll get closer up to some of the bark here on this open specimen here. As you can see, like a lot of mountain lilacs or mountain ceanothus, bark has a lot of green in it in Ceanothus palmeri. Here we are getting some larger thickets. So if you ever hiked in Cuyamaca Rancho State Park, you hiked along Middle Peak Fire Road, or if you've ever hiked up Lookout Road up to Cuyamaca Peak, you will see walls and walls and walls and walls and walls, acres and acres and acres and acres of this plant. So, thinking, how come that's there, and then all the big pine forests that used to be there, all the huge sugar pines and everything that used to be there before 2003's cedar fire, how come the pines are gone, but now we have these? Well, like a lot of species of Ceanothus, these ones are propagated by fire disturbance. Fire scarifies the seeds and allows these to germinate and form new plants. So what happens is, a lot of times the Ceanothus will be one of the first woody plants to colonize a burn site. So as you know, the vast majority of Cuyamaca Rancho State Park had burnt in 2003 cedar fire. So that's why, with all the competition from the tree roots gone, that's why we now have walls and walls of this. It is one of the earliest portions of the post-fire succession. A lot of times it starts off with herbaceous plants, annuals, and perennial wildflowers, subshrubs and forbs, and then the Ceanothus bushes will eventually grow and shade them out and become extremely vast acres of chaparral thickets before the conifer forest eventually returns and eventually will shade these out. These are not supposed to be nearly as long-lived as the trees are. So this is part of the succession of post-fire recovery in an area. And another interesting thing about Ceanothus is that Ceanothus, including Palmer Ceanothus, also has nitrogen-fixing roots. They get these little bacteria or something on their roots that helps integrate nitrogen into the soil, thereby making the soil richer for not only themselves, but other plants that are growing nearby. So that is another adaptation to nutriently enriching the soil. Probably was a stupid way to say it. To enrich the soil's nutrient level, their nitrogen-fixing root nodules will take care of that. Because a lot of places here in Southern California mountains have pretty poor soils. So certain species like mountain mahogany in the rose family, legumes in the pea family, and a lot of Ceanothus will take care of that and enrich the soil, thereby allowing some richness for these guys to grow. The California black oak, which also provides food and shelter for caterpillars. So Palmer Ceanothus, very important part of our restoration restoration of our post-fire areas, helping reestablish native plants. Now, I noticed, I remember hearing about some of the stuff going on at Cuyamaca Rancho. They do a lot of periodic burns up there to try to get rid of the Ceanothus. Well, it might look invasive to the untrained eye, but Ceanothus is part of the natural cycle of regeneration. So we got to keep that in mind. We don't want to just hack out all the shrubs and throw them away. We want to allow them to grow. They provide great pollen for the local insect populations, and also they can also produce nurse shrubs for tree seedlings. And eventually, when the trees outgrow the shrubs, then they'll be able to get more sunlight and grow faster. So, Palmer Ceanothus, Ceanothus palmeri. Pretty common in the higher elevation mountains here in especially San Diego County. I've never seen it north of San Diego County yet, though it might also grow in the Santa Ana Mountains alongside southern deer brush, making identification a real pain in the butt. But I will post a range in the description of the video. But here in San Diego County, especially the Lagunas, Cuyamaca Mountains, also Palomar Mountain also has a lot of Palmer Ceanothus growing there. This is the predominant Ceanothus over in the higher elevations of the Palomar range as well. So there you have it. The beautiful. Well, one more note before I go. So I told you about the flowers. So what about the seed capsules? Well, these are the bases of old seed capsules that have burst open in previous years. So what happens is the seeds develop in these small 3-chambered capsules. I'm trying to see if I could find any developing ones. Maybe on the one over there that's past its peak bloom. So what happens is after the flowers are pollinated, the fruits develop. There are these 3-chambered seed capsules that are a little warty, bumpy, and have 3 raised crests. And what happens is they swell, they ripen to size, and then sometime during the summer, the seed capsules will explode, burst open, shooting the seeds everywhere. Let's see if I can find any developing capsules yet. Or there are these really small 3-chambered seed capsules that'll eventually burst open, shooting the seeds all over the place, creating a soil bank that is going to last in the soil until the next fire disturbance. Again, seeds need to be scarified before they will germinate. They need to be scarified and have enough winter rainfall for them to germinate in the springtime. So fire scarification and enough precipitation for them to germinate and establish before everything gets too dry during the summertime. But there you have it. Beautiful Palmer Ceanothus. Ceanothus palmeri. Live and direct from Laguna Mountain Recreation Area here in East San Diego County. Thanks for watching. Come out and check out this plant for yourself. And I hope that this was informative, educational, and interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another Spotlight.